Cy, they're lighting the beam. They're
Oh.
lighting the beam in Sacramento because the Kings beat my Warriors 123-116. I'm not happy, but let's talk about it. All right, welcome to the Krueger Show. Meets Golden Days, meets Warrior postgame, meets Kings postgame, meets Warriors gagged, meets Larry's angry.
Good. I like angry Larry.
It's like a Joe Piscopo. The story, sports. Yankees win. Mets lose.
Do you want some trivia?
Pissed. Joe Piscopo. No?
The great Joe Piscopo from Saturday Night Live. The 50th anniversary is coming up next month, man. That should be the 40th was a doozy. I can't wait to see 50. Do you want some trivia to start the show, Larry?
Sure. What the hell? Why not? We are brought to you, by the way, by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And also, of course, we're brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're in Pacific Grove, California. For all your sports cards and collectible needs, check out Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles.
Beautiful. Yes. Over on this side of things, today's episode of Golden Days is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. I got in too late. I didn't make any picks tonight, but I've been playing every day. If you follow me on social media, whether it's Threads at Dog Wild, Twitter at Surf Journalist, Blue Sky at Golden Days, I'm posting my picks. I forgot today, but the point is, it's one of the greatest sponsors I've had in a while, simply because they're legal here in California, in addition to 30 plus other states in the U.S., so we can all play along. Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code GSW for a free pick and up to $1,000 in free cash. Tonight's episode brought to you by Dr. Tom Rosanelli, the hair restoration specialist. The doctor left me a voicemail a few hours ago. I will get back to you, doctor, saying he hasn't heard from you folks. We've been running this ad for a week. This is officially me calling out to you, gentlemen. If you have issues with hair loss, Dr. Rosanelli's the guy to call. We're going to set up a promo as well soon if you want to hold on to that, to hold on to calling him. But 415-931-9881 to schedule your free virtual or in-office personal consultation for your hair and facial care needs today, or visit rosanelli.com. Again, the number 415-931-9881. A beautiful head of hair awaits you. And last but not least, BetOnline, who continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. The Warriors did not cover the spread tonight. I think they were underdog, or maybe actually they did, because I think the line was 7 and they lost this game by 6. So they actually did cover. So they did one thing good tonight. Bet online. The game starts here. Back to you, sir.
Well, and thanks to Rosanelli, because see this hair right down here? I didn't have any of this. I had none of this just a day ago. And then I called Rosanelli. I said, what's the deal? And he gave me some cream. I rubbed it on my chin. Look at that. It's just coming in thick. It's coming in thick. That's all Rosanelli. You think this is Krueger natural growth? Hell no. That's Rosanelli. Baby. That's Rosanelli. That's Rosanelli. Guy's freaking powerful. Larry. He's powerful.
He's a really good dude. And so here's the trivia I'm going to present to you. How many losses since last season? Okay, we're going to count 2023 to present. How many losses have the Warriors blown when leading by 15 or more points at the half? Again, since 2023, Larry. Do you have a guess?
But that's a lot. Leading by how many? 15?
15 or more, yes. At the
I
half.
would say they in how many games? In how many games?
Going back to last season, so a year and a half.
No more than 4 or 5.
Okay, well, tonight marked 8.
Okay.
And the next closest team are the Toronto Raptors with 5. That's how bad the Warriors have been in second half of games when they go into the half with a 15-point or more lead.
As John Lynch would say, they need finishers. They need finishers.
Yes, sir.
Finishers.
Yes, sir.
The third quarter was a nightmare. I mean, let's just talk about that for a second. 37-20 third quarter. That third quarter is where they lost this game. This game was lost in the third quarter. They were absolutely in cruise control. The Kings were dead. They weren't going to play well. It wasn't their night. And then all of a sudden, third quarter came, and the Warriors just couldn't throw it in the ocean, turnovers, just bad ball. And they got beat bad in the quarter. What can you say?
That's a great call. You're absolutely right, because the Warriors went into the half with a 17-point lead. And I want to take a step back to that second quarter, because there was one player in particular in that second quarter that was largely responsible for the Warriors surging ahead. And that was an individual that I think you and I have both been a fan of since he's been getting increased minutes due to the injury plague that has affected the Golden State Warriors, and that's Guy Santos, man. In that second quarter, Guy Santos played 9 minutes, 42 seconds. He was 3 of 4 from beyond the arc, 4 of 6 from the field total, an 11.2 rebound second quarter for Guy Santos. So we go to the third quarter. Steve Kerr didn't put him in for the first 10-plus minutes of that third quarter. The lead was gone by the time we saw Guy Santos again. And I thought that was a perfect symbol. There were a lot of things we could point to. Dennis Schroeder had an awful night. We'll talk about him as well. But the fact that Steve Kerr just does not make adjustments quickly is a problem. We've seen this for years now, where he's very set on his rotations. He scripts his plan out. And then when you need to make adjustments on the fly, he just sits there staring into space or getting technicals for random plays like a kick ball. I don't know if you saw that, where he lost his shit because he thought that a kick ball should have been called. Meanwhile, there's like 10 other plays where I thought it would have warranted that level of emotional reaction. Nonetheless, man, Guy Santos, great night, and poorly used, because I saw that lead evaporate, correlating with Guy Santos not playing. What were your thoughts on that? I don't know if you saw the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, Guy, first of all, nice quarter for sure, and he's coming on. He's an interesting player. I mean, he's got a good size on him. He's got a good feel. I like the outside shot. I mean, he's interesting. He's interesting. As far as Kerr and his plan and his rotation, I mean, this is just one of those things that, I mean, this is like the daily conversation of basketball when you don't have defined starters and bench guys, and it's always like, well, who are you going to play and what minutes and this and that. I mean, I guess we can always take find fault with his minute distribution, but there's probably a bunch of things that go into it. I mean, on a positive note, I liked what I saw from Moses Moody. I loved what I saw from Quentin Post. I think Quentin Post is interesting. I mean, he's got a nice looking outside shot. He
spaces the floor, Larry. Like, even if he's not hitting the shots, at a bare minimum, he's someone else out there who's opening that floor up, because this team is lacking in shooters.
And he's not a stiff. I mean, he can move. I mean, he can defend. He can move his feet. I like him. I mean, he can rebound. Same. He's aggressive. He looks good. I mean, this is a guy who was putting up big numbers in the G League, and it's great. See, this is why you want a G League, because you get a place for this guy to develop.
Yes, sir.
And like what I'm seeing there, like what I'm seeing with TJD. Buddy Hield, I was hoping would have like more of like a 27-point night and carry the Warriors to victory. Instead, it was 17, but he had his moments.
One short of the point total where he remains undefeated. I think it's 9 or 10 games this year, Larry, where Buddy Hield, when he scores 18 or more, the Warriors, I think, are 9-0 or 10-0. I forgot the number. It's in that ballpark. But yeah, you're right, man. He came 1 point short. It's insane. It's just this is frustrating, Larry. I'm not gonna lie, man. Dub Nation, I imagine, is frustrated, and then some. I'm probably underselling the true emotional nature of how this fan base is feeling, but they are pissed. I feel like, Larry, the Warriors are encroaching on a territory that you and I recognize as being the worst place to be in if you're involved in the media game, especially. And the Warriors are, man. That's where they make their money, is the media, and that's irrelevancy. They're encroaching on that territory, dude. Do you see the same thing? I'm concerned. I'm worried, man. I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
you should be concerned. If this is a franchise that was on a dynasty that got one extra ring than they probably should have gotten, and now they're at where they're at, And this is basketball. I mean, this is the way it works. I mean, your players get old, you fall, suddenly, if you don't turn it over. I mean, Joe Lacob had a choice, all right? He had a choice. And his choice was to be cold-hearted like a Bill Walsh and move guys before they were done, or he could be, softy and, the guy who gets real nostalgic, for yesteryear and I thought he would be, as a self-made billionaire, probably a little bit more cold and calculating and cutthroat. And instead, he's like softy grandpa guy who loved Clay, loves Draymond, loves Steph, loves all these guys, can't get beyond it, can't say goodbye to any of it, is going to have a much more, pronounced down period because he's not surfing this like a wave and trying to move other pieces and keep going. He's like, he's treating this like it's a cruise, like everybody's on the ship till the end. Well, guess what? I mean, now Steph's old, Draymond's old, Clay's moved on, the show's over. But these guys want to keep playing. So then what? So you either have to separate from them and be cold and say, hey, guess what? We love Steph Curry. Steph Curry put us on the map. Steph Curry has meant more to this organization than any player we've had in our almost our lifetime. I mean, he is the most valuable Warrior since Chamberlain. I mean, literally, he is the franchise. But we're going to trade him because we're going to move on. We're going to let him, he does have greatness to him. We are going to let him try to win a championship somewhere, and we're going to turn the page and start to rebuild and climb back up that mountain. I think that's what I would expect them to do, but they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that.
I don't really see it as like an either or, Larry. I see that I've read and seen that argument being made that, it's either you go down with the ship and the dynasty ends, or you make moves early and take the Bill Walsh, Eddie D approach, which is get ahead of this thing and transition and rebuild without flailing in the process. There are other options, though. I mean, like,
why you could be friends for life. I mean, guess what? Walsh was friends with a lot of those guys, after their playing career. Eddie's friends with all these guys. Even he's friends with Roger Craig. Put him on plan B. He's friends with Ronnie Lott. They said goodbye to him. Friends with Joe. They traded him. I mean, you can be friends. See, Joe's only been doing this for such a short amount of time that I think it's now getting into that point where he'd rather be friends with those guys and have them stick around than win and turn this thing over. So there, from what I've heard, and then I heard this today in a couple spots, that Joe Lacob is the most meddlesome owner in the NBA, and that Mike Dunleavy has no autonomy to do anything. He can't send a memo without Joe and his kids signing off on that. That it's all Joe, and Joe's got his fingertips on everything, and so you can't possibly do anything just independent. Mike Dunleavy is not the general manager of that team.
That's fair.
That's there, and he's got the title, but Joe Lacob, let's make no mistakes about this, is the general manager of the team. And if he's not, his kids are, and Dunleavy doesn't have the autonomy to do what he wants to do.
That's fair. That's fair. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. My curiosity would be to follow up with your source and ask, okay, how much is Joe listening to Kerr? That's the part of this that I'm very curious about, because everything in terms of actions being taken or lack thereof indicates that Joe Lacob is being deferential to Kerr, because Joe Lacob, I guarantee, did not think Dennis Schroeder was the best option on the trade market when they traded for him. That was a Steve Kerr production. Everything going on with this team, the team not trading Wiggins, the team holding on to GP2 and Kevon Looney's contracts, both of which expire after this year. Those are assets you can flip without any sacrifice of your future. But to hold on to that, the only sensible answer is that Joe is, again, They went through 4 championships together. I think Joe Lacob looks at Steve Kerr as someone who's a quote-unquote expert, to a certain extent, rightfully so, although Kerr's never proven that with personnel. And this is what it smells like, man. This is what, like, all the tea leaves are reading to me, that this is a Steve Kerr production, and it's fascinating to me what you're saying in terms of Joe taking a step back from what he's publicly expressed in previous years, which is he did not want this team to turn into the Kobe Bryant Lakers during those last 2, 3, 4 years where they were abysmal. And all you watched those games for was to see Kobe's greatness in those final days. Joe Lacob said he doesn't want that, yet that's exactly where this team is heading. It's perplexing, man. Yeah. It sucks.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
A couple things. The Warriors, there's nothing wrong. Nobody blew anything here. They won championships. It's the natural progression of basketball. But this whole, we will not be taking a step back. It's like you're making yourself look stupid. Don't make statements like that.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets old. Steph Curry got old. Everybody's getting old. So it's just the natural progression of things. Now, I know Steph means a lot to the bottom line, and I know that he loves it here. But, I think at this point, you got to have that conversation, Joe. You got to have the conversation. Hey, look, Steph, would you like to win another ring? Because you're good enough to win another ring if we can get you in the right spot. Let's do right for him. Steph said the right thing for the Warriors, which was, I don't want you guys to trade away the future to try to win me a ring, because I want you to do what's best for the franchise. And I don't want to see the franchise, gutted in my last year to try desperately to illogically get me that ring. Okay. So I understand that's what makes Steph Curry classy. But if you're classy as well, Joe, you come back and you say, you know what, Steph, you're right. We're not going to tear up the team to get you another ring, but you deserve to be in the NBA Finals on the top stage once again, and we don't have the right assets to be able to put this thing together in a fast enough fashion to get you there. Is there a spot in the league that you'd like to go? We'll make the best deal we can make. And is there a place that you would like to go to try to potentially win a ring? Because there are teams in this league that would absolutely trade for him. There's no doubt in my mind.
I'm going to take the other path, which is you can keep Steph. You can have him be a lifer. You can even keep Draymond and have him be a lifer, and stop pretending that all these pieces around him in this current incarnation are worth anything outside of the young pieces. Like, again, there's no addressing Kevon Looney. Why is he still on this team right now? Like, why is he still on this team right now? Gary Payton II. Why is he still on this team right now? Like, why? Like, we just saw the Warriors, like GP2 tonight, for example, who is offensively worthless, right? He's out there allegedly for the defense, although that's declined tremendously. And GP2's starting games for this team, he had 4 turnovers tonight in 12 minutes. All right? 4 in 12 minutes. Why are these guys on the team? What I'm trying to say, Larry, is instead of like this either or, and I hear what you're saying, man. Like, if you really want to take this thing seriously in terms of the Eddie D approach of sustaining greatness over a long term,
or just do what's right for Steph. He's trying to do what's right for the franchise. The franchise should turn around and say, Steph, we want to do what's right for you, and we can't win with you. So I don't want to see the Warriors are going to trade for Vucevic at the deadline, and then whatever they give up, they're going to wind up getting Vucevic. And that's a great addition if you're on the verge of winning. But if you're not on the verge of winning, I don't see what it does for you. And they're not on the verge of winning. And then they're going to go into the summer. From what I'm hearing, they're going to put off their big move until this summer. And they're going to try to take their assets this summer and pool them together and see if they can get somebody. I would try to get a Zion Williamson at the deadline, because a lot of people make stupid decisions and impulsive decisions at the deadline in the midst of the games going on. And if somebody's stupid enough to trade Zion Williamson at 24, then yeah, I'll be there to catch, the idiot GM who's giving up on a player just because his attitude's not right and his weight's not right, and he's not in the right mind frame right now, or mind space. He needs to leave New Orleans, reset, new environment, the whole deal. But let's not pretend that Zion Williamson sucks. Some people are like, oh, yeah, Zion, he's fat and this and that. Now, come on, he's 24. I mean,
he still could be a great player.
Go get young players. I mean, how do you get better? You go get young players and see if you can bring them together. I mean, go get some volatile young talents that are whose stock or whose price is low. And buy low and see if you can get something out of it. I mean, it happens all the time in sports. Why do teams trade for former first-round picks? Because they see, if we could just get Marshawn Lynch out of Buffalo and get him in Seattle, he's going to be really good. Well, guess what? He went to Seattle, beast mode, Super Bowl, and the whole deal. So, the Niners got Christian McCaffrey. Why? Because he was a first-round pick, kind of flailing away, doing nothing in Carolina. He comes to San Francisco. They go to the Super Bowl. He's the Offensive Player of the Year. So that's what the Warriors ought to do, I think, as far as go invest either as soon as possible. Like, I'd skip the Vucevic step. Like, even though I like Vucevic, because Vucevic is great, but he's old, and you're not winning anything.
You're not giving up anything now. But you're not giving up anything. This is what I don't understand.
You are, because they want the number one, and they're not going to make the deal without the number one.
Oh, no, a 2031 first, Larry, is going to doom the Warriors? Like, what, 7 years from now? That's what you're panicking over? I don't get that.
7 years from now, that could be the first pick in the draft. We're talking about the era post-Steph.
Again.
You can't give away. This is the thing, Si. I know as tempting as it can be, you can't give away your first-round draft choices in distant years, especially post-Steph, if you think you can't just shut the franchise down. That's what sets the franchise back. You can't.
No one's saying that.
And for what? But for what gain, too? It's like, for what gain?
Larry.
Okay, let's make the deal. We make the deal you want to make. Okay? They give up the number one. They have Vucevic. What are they going to win? 45 games? How many rounds?
It's better than this crap. Are you advocating for this?
Okay, so wait. So you win 45 games, let's say. You get into the playoffs.
Yes.
You win a round.
Yes.
You lose in the second round.
Yes.
But you don't have that number one.
Hypothetically. You're pretending that the Western
Conference could be a lottery pick.
Gauntlet. You're pretending the Western Conference is not the gauntlet you're pretending it is. The Warriors can get through that.
What do you think? Okay, well, you think Warriors as is, get Kuminga back, add Vucevic, and they're going how far?
They could go to the finals. Because here's the thing. Steve Kerr and
I don't know about that.
Okay,
I think they could go a couple rounds.
Larry, Steve Kerr and Stephen Curry both have said what I agree with, which is that 12-3 start was not a fluke. It was not a mirage. It actually happened. It's a real thing. It's the reason why the Warriors currently are just 2 or 2.5 games back of the playoffs right now. That's why doing nothing is absurd, because they're still in the running to get into the playoffs. The Western Conference is not as stacked as whatever perception has been presented out there in regards to the conference. OKC is great, but their model is the Warriors, small ball. And the Warriors have already beaten them once and almost beat them a second time without Steph playing. The Western Conference is wide open. You'd be doing a much bigger disservice to do nothing, like what you're apparently proposing. Whereas what I'm saying is that 2031
I'm not saying do nothing. No, I'm not saying do nothing.
What are you proposing?
Don't trade for older players unless the price is right. There's no reason to give away ones. If it's twos, I would do.
7 years from now, you're worried about a first round pick 7 years from now, Larry.
Yes.
You're going to be in your 60s. I'm going to be in my 50s.
It's not about me. It's about making these.
Okay, well, how about this? How about applying ingenuity like the Suns did?
If he was 28, I'd do it, but not for 34, 35. Okay, well, that's what he is.
Again,
they don't have that good of a shot.
Value a 7 years from now. What about the Suns? The Suns actually applied ingenuity yesterday. They flipped their 2031 first for 3 first-round picks. Those 3 first-round picks they got back are not as good, but now you have assets to make some moves and be relevant in the present. Why can't the Warriors do something like that? For them to stand pat and do nothing is absurd. And what I'm saying is,
they're not going to. No, they're not doing nothing.
They gave up nothing for
who says they're doing nothing. Who is out there saying they're doing nothing? I'm not.
But you're saying that a 2031 first is too big of an asking price for Vucevic. Yeah, I strongly disagree with that.
He's 34 years old. I mean, you're not going to win a title. I don't want to give away. I don't want to give away assets to get to NBA middle ground.
You and I have a different view. You and I have a very different viewpoint than clearly, Larry, in terms of the Warriors' potential, because I and a lot of other people, including Stephen Curry and Steve Kerr, they've at least said it publicly. I personally do believe fervently, based on everything I've seen, that if they make a deal like that, if Nikola Vucevic is on this roster, they could make some serious noise, especially when you're getting back Kuminga, especially when you're getting back. Is there anyone else injured? Oh, Draymond Green. I have optimism about this team. I saw enough at the beginning of the season. I understand that Buddy Hield was a huge part of that, but this team defensively is still top 10 in the NBA right now. What they need is offense. Vucevic gives you so much. And if it's not Vucevic, Miles Turner, fine. Get that stretch big. Get someone who
I'm not for to me, it's not a one. They're not one player away from a title. I mean, at least not one player that they could get.
Agree to disagree on that. Agree to disagree. You're diminishing.
Is not. Yeah. They're not winning a title this year.
Agree to disagree, man. I don't agree with that.
I know people in the organization who have said to me when I was like, hey, they should do this, they should do that, and those people that have on that side of the thing said, hey, anonymously, I would never own this publicly, but we're done winning titles. We've won our titles.
Well, they also
we're not going to win.
Larry,
we're not going to win any more titles. So this whole idea that we can make a trade and get a title, it's just very, very, very unlikely.
Larry, Steve Kerr and Bob Myers said the exact same thing in 2021. I don't care if they're saying that. I trust my own observation skills, and I trust the fact that the Warriors are still just 2 games out of the playoffs right now. They have a top 10 defense. They're not as bad as they look right now. They look awful.
They're actually kind of worse than they look because they started 12-3. So They're really not as good at this point, the 12-3 is the aberration.
But even worse,
they had what did they have going there? They were fresh. They had DeAnthony Melton. They had some teams that hadn't quite settled into the season yet. They got off to a nice hot start. It was a feel good.
Well, Melton didn't play most of those games, but go on.
Okay, sorry. But a lot of people credited him with some kind of he was some.
And they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. Those people, because Melton didn't play most of those games.
Okay, but he was part of their mix at that point.
He was, but he didn't play a big role in that start.
But the whole point is that was the aberration. That what they've done since. And also to expect that older guys like Steph and Draymond are going to be good. They're not good now, but they're going to be good after a super, super long marathon of a season, because that's really what it is. This is where the NBA season gets endless. Why? Because they've already been playing since November the 1st, and now that's all of November, all of December, and now we're coming up on all of January. So they're 3 months into this thing, right? Oh, but wait, there's all of February, all of March, a lot of April, and if you're in the playoffs, then May. You're talking about you've only played 3 months. You have 4 months left before you even get to the finals. And Steph Curry and Draymond Green's already hurt. I think that it's just pie in the sky to think that the Warriors with Steph and Draymond leading the charge are going to even be physically in any way ready to go through this thing in May and June when this thing really gets won. So I'm not like you. I don't think they're a Vucevic away. I think they ought to take a bunch of their pieces and go and try to make a couple different deals and move all kinds, because there's going to be a lot of trades. There's teams get tired of players. There's all kinds of trades in the NBA. Start pitching all kinds of trades, all kinds of players. This is the best time to do it. Why? Because you got a bunch of different assets, and you can shake the deck. You're only really keeping a few guys, and let's see what you can come up with. Reshuffle, and let's see what you can come up with. I will take a chance. I don't like doing it normally, but this year with this roster, with the players they have, some need a change of scenery, some are just here for the first time. This is the right year to try to shake it up and make that big deal that sends 4 players going one way, 5 players coming back. That's what they need. Well, they need a major shakeup, not
I agree. Larry, I'm trying to be pragmatic here. What I mean by that is the Warriors have insisted, and I don't agree with this, and this goes against what you're advocating for, but they're insisting that Andrew Wiggins is not tradable. And he has to be tradable if they're going to do the type of shakeup that you're proposing.
Right.
I want that too. But I'm also trying to be pragmatic here, which is that the Warriors don't want to trade Wiggins. They don't want to trade anybody. Steve Kerr seems like he's just happy as long as they're all together and they're singing Kumbaya after the game, which is bullshit, man. Like he doesn't even care about winning anymore, it seems like. But they don't want to trade Wiggins. And Wiggins'
You just lost to the Kings on a night where the Kings didn't even really show up.
Right. You're right. But the biggest reason why I'm proposing a player like Vucevic or Miles Turner is because without Wiggins included in these deals, you can't do that much, man. And again,
we'll move Wiggins. My God, he's hardly just. We're not talking about Jordan.
Did your source tell you that if Wiggins is? I mean, because if they're not going to trade him, you're not going to get that shakeup. I mean, you could still make a decent move if you include Schroeder's deal, because Schroeder's got $13 million expiring. GP2 and Looney are both at $8 million expiring. Those 3 contracts alone could get back something substantial. You flip that 2031 first rounder and turn it into 3 like what the Suns did, except you don't find the Jazz as your partner. You use the Thunder or you use the New Orleans Pelicans. You find a team, the Spurs, that have a massive stockpile of draft picks. The Jazz still have over 20 draft picks just stored away even after that trade they made. So apply some ingenuity, increase your stockpile of picks, get someone that's not going to cost you the future. This is why I keep bringing up Vucevic, is because besides the fact he's a stretch 3, who's a former All-Star, who's currently putting up 20 and 10, we're going to see him tomorrow night, by the way. So it'll be a good opportunity for Dub Nation to actually watch this guy up close and personal. But
wait.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I
was just going to say, he doesn't cost you much, man. Like GP2, Looney, Schroeder, these are guys who are going to be gone after this year probably anyways. Like, I just don't understand. The stand pat.
I've got a couple trades I want to throw you. Okay. And I've already run them through the trade machine on Real GM. So I'm just going to show you the screen if I can.
Okay, it still can't see it, but it's slowly. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's coming into focus. So your trade includes. Who can you just read it? I can't. I'm sorry, man. I see Steph.
It's Steph and Looney to the Rockets for Steph and Looney to the Rockets for Fred VanVleet, Reed Shepherd, Jabari Smith, and picks. On
paper, sign me up. In reality, though, again, Stephen Curry, he's like Michael Jordan, dude. He's like, if the Niners did not have Steve Young waiting in the wings, do they still trade Joe Montana? Steve Young. I mean, Stephen Curry, his what he means to this franchise and this area is so profound that I don't know, man. I don't know.
I got another one. I got another one for you.
Okay.
Steph and Looney to the Knicks for Karl Anthony Towns, Jericho Sims, and campaign and picks.
No, I would not do that. If you're gonna flip Steph,
you wouldn't trade him for Karl Anthony Towns and picks.
No. If I'm gonna flip Steph, I'd want like 4 first rounders back minimum, and I'd want the Hornets would be my target. Like I'd flip him to the Hornets.
Oh, it's funny you should say that. Here we go. I got another one.
For 4 first rounders, 4 pick swaps, and LaMelo Ball.
Here we go. I got a Hornets trade. Right here. Steph and Looney to the Hornets for LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, and picks.
Yeah, the Bridges part, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if he'll ever be a moved here because of his history, but on paper I like it, man. It's got to be 4 firsts and 4 pick swaps, man. That would be my price tag for your first Stephen Curry trade. But I still think you can do like I look. A lot of people. I think
the best you can do. That's the best. I've looked around. That's the best you can do.
Here's the deal. In 2021,
for Steph, if you're moving Steph.
You're right. In 2021, no one was predicting the Warriors to win the title except for yours truly and Stephen A. Smith. And the biggest reason why, at least from what I gathered, asking around, is they thought the team was washed. They were too old. And Steph was like 32 at that point. Draymond was 30. To me, I saw these two players, and with Klay Thompson coming back, as two individuals who have not only at that point been to 5 straight NBA finals, they'd won 3 titles. That experience means something, man. Tim Duncan was 37 when he won his last title. Jordan was 35 when he won his last title. And if you can surround Steph and Dre with the right pieces, I don't think you can keep doing this. Like, I'm not like, to me, this is the last stand. Then this is why I want them to make a move now. Because if you're pretending that 38-year-old Steph is going to somehow be better than 37-year-old Steph, I don't know what you're smoking, man. And this is why, like, I don't know if you saw that report, for example, from ESPN. Alms, you know him. What's that guy's name who's covering the Warriors now? He replaced Kendra Andrews. Do you know
just say it.
Okay, I can't say his name either. I'm so sorry.
Just try it and I'll get it. I'll correct you and I'll know it.
But he came out with a
Yamasek or something.
Yes.
But
he came out. He was on a podcast yesterday, and I talked about this with Damon Bruce this morning, where he said what he's heard. And this was a crazy report that no one's talking about. And again, I think that's more of a sign of the ineptitude of the media paradigm as a whole. But he said on a podcast that the Warriors are going to make a run at Giannis this summer. And that and I don't know if collusion is what's in play here. I don't know if it's like Steph and Giannis have talked. Alms added that the relationship between Stephen Curry and Giannis is playing a factor in that. What are your thoughts on that, man? Like, if that is the big play here, because you mentioned that the team wants to make that move this offseason, which I'm not a big fan of just waiting for like, you know, life is short, dude. I never understand how these pro teams just say, oh, next year. It's like, that's a year of your life. You're just waiting on. It's insane. Like, patience is the ethos of sports, of professional sports. With that said, what are your thoughts on Giannis being the target, apparently? I talked about this last summer, but the Bucks were holding on. Is that a realistic hope to you? Like, what do you think about that report?
By the way, the beam has just hit the studio, so I'm being hit by the purple beam.
Son of a bitch.
I've lost the bet to my brother since the Kings won, so I got to go with the purple. I got to go with the purple beam. J-Dub says, Larry got the beam lighting up his room. Thank you.
Affecting you.
We got this one, too, from JW. Larry, put your sunglasses on. The beam is strong. Yeah, the goddamn beam. What can you say?
Great marketing gimmick, though. I mean, kudos for that. But
that guy better have his own parking spot. The guy who created the beam probably can park horizontally. You know, he can just horizontal across a bunch of spots, and nobody would say anything. That's the beam guy. Oh yeah, that's why he's doing it. Your question again was what?
The report from Alms that what he's heard, and he's taken over Kendra Andrews' role as the Warriors beat reporter for ESPN, which is a whole other thing, which is kind of bizarre. But he's saying that what he's hearing being discussed behind the scenes is that the Warriors, their big Giannis play this summer is going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that's what they're waiting for.
Well, I mean,
I don't know how real that is, but
I mean, that's fine. That's great. Awesome. I mean, it's just that, I mean, they shoot big, you know, and what are they going to fleece Milwaukee with? I mean, it's got to be Wiggins, right? It's going to have to be Wiggins at some point.
It's going to have to be Kuminga. It's going to have to be every draft that you own. It's going to,
I mean, I every time I don't even like looking at NBA, like Bleacher Report makes me angry when I look at Bleacher Report, and they're like, "Oh, NBA trades," and I'm like, "Oh, check it out."
Yeah, that's all clickbait,
and they're
man.
always like, mediocre NBA player for Kuminga, this guy, that guy. And it's like, what?
It's clickbait.
Yesterday it was Kevin Durant to the Warriors.
The
Warriors would have to give them Kuminga. I wouldn't give up Kuminga right now, straight up. For Durant.
Hell no.
Why do I want old Durant with his attitude and he's battling all these 12-year-olds on social media? I want that. some
and
washed up.
He's going to be 30.
Some washed up guy with a huge ego over Kuminga, who's like one of the bright young talents in the sport. I mean, come on.
Hell no.
No.
Yeah, hell no.
Yeah. So I hate looking at the Warrior trades.
Because
everybody wants to rip off Kuminga. Every team in the league wants him because everybody can see the potential. So don't cave into that.
And Dre the loser in the chat saying that KD's better than Kuminga. Yeah, right now. But that's not the only variable you got to look at here. You know, it's the future. It's the fact that KD in 2 years might not even be walking anymore. At least not at a normal pace.
Well, it's like, you know, how about this? You know, you have a brand new Tesla right off the showroom floor, and I've got like a vintage old Mercedes, you know, from like 1979, but it's in mint condition. You know, no. I mean, come on. I'm not. That's not a fair trade. We're not doing that. You're just not trading an old for young. And KD, what does KD got? KD's got what, a year, 2 years, 3 max
on his contract? Well, I'm more concerned.
No, I mean, at a level
like
that's really premier.
Yes, like a year or two. Yeah, you're right. He's 37.
A year or two.
He's the same age as Steph. He's the same age as Steph. So KD, again, that's why you don't give up the house. Now, someone in the chat did ask a good question, which is, who would you trade Kuminga for? And that's where Giannis's name, I would entertain that, obviously. I think another name that no one talks about, and I don't think the Pistons would trade him, but I would consider Jonathan Kuminga for Jalen Duren. I think Jalen Duren could be a legitimate big in this game. He's already making his mark. I mean, that guy could be, you know, a Paolo Banchero level type player. Like, he could be a superstar. There aren't a lot of players.
I don't know about that.
And maybe not. I'm just saying, like, I'm just throwing names out there that I would at least consider, that I'd at least think about.
There's all kinds of guys in the league I would trade Kuminga for. I don't want to trade for old guys.
Right. Who are some young guys?
No to Jimmy Butler. No for LeBron. No. I've actually seen people say they should trade him for LeBron. It's like,
nope.
What? That is the dumbest trade of all time.
Nope.
You can trade some guy with a huge future for some guy with no future.
And I'm not saying Jalen Duren.
You got to remember, it's not. You don't get anything. There's no you don't get any benefit for past accomplishments in a trade. A trade is a concept that's about the future. Okay, so it's not about the past. So if you're really getting somebody with a great past, you don't want that. You want somebody with a with a future.
Tell that to
Chris
Steve
Wood
Kerr
says, did Krug watch the game? Moody got cooked by DeMar as usual.
Well,
did I say Moody didn't get cooked?
All
I said was that Moody hit a couple big shots at the end. He had a big three, kind of bailed Steph out. Steph kind of dribbled into a nothing play, flipped it to Moody at the last second before the shot clock, and he buried it from the corner or near corner. That's what I was talking about. No, DeMar. Well, DeMar. I mean,
DeMar was cooking Wiggins. DeMar was cooking GP2. There was nobody.
DeMar's got the most developed mid-range game almost in the entire league.
Yeah,
I mean, outside of KD, we just talked about, but I mean, DeMar DeRozan is one of the great mid-range snipers of his era.
DeMar DeRozan tonight in the third quarter, I think he put up 19 points, which was the most points brought
him back.
19 points in the third. He played all 12 minutes, the most points scored by a player against the Warriors this season. Don't blame Moody, man. Moody was 3 of 7 from beyond the arc tonight. He was one of the only guys giving this team any scoring. You could again, there was a moment in this game late where the Warriors did not have any scorers on the court except for Wiggins and Moody. That's a concern, and that's one of many reasons why I'm advocating for some sort of trade. That's again, a 20.
They're going to make a trade. There's no doubt they're going to make a trade.
I hope I
would. If you're worried about them being like inactive, I would not worry about that.
Oh, I am, dude. Until it happens,
they're saying all the right stuff, but here's the bottom line: they're not going. Yeah, they're going to try to make the right kind of move and this and that, but they're eager to make a move. I think they're eager to make a move. If they punt into the offseason, I think it's more of a statement that they just don't really believe that they have anything close to the kinds of pieces that it takes to make a run right now.
I mean,
they don't want to move Kuminga. I wish they would kind of make up their mind about Kuminga. It's like they clearly don't want to pay him Franz Wagner kind of money, and that's fine. But if that's fine. But then trade him and move off of him. But this whole we're not going to pay him, we're not going to trade him. It's weird. It's a weird stance. It's
Well, the good news is it's not as I don't know. It's not as weird as I get it. The way you described it, it sounds weird. But when you look at it in terms of how it's going to play out, like the Warriors, they were $5 million apart this previous offseason. Kuminga wanted $35 million a year. The Warriors offered 30, and basically the Warriors, the position they took is Kuminga, go earn that extra $5 million. And at the start of the season, he was not. And then December on, we suddenly started to see the Kuminga that I think we all were hoping for before the injury. And side note, by the way, durability is a variable that you take into consideration for every NBA player. Kuminga better stop with these goddamn ankle. I really don't. I know injuries are a thing, but for some players, they are more of a thing than others. And I really hope this is not a regular, consistent thing with Kuminga, because last year he missed a decent stretch near the end of the season as well. But the point is, Kuminga, after this year, is going to be a restricted free agent. Somebody else out there, if the Warriors and Kuminga's camp don't come to an agreement, will offer him the kind of money that he's looking for. They will. I promise you that. And then the Warriors will match that contract, and then all this will be put to bed. But it is weird in the sense that they haven't committed. I get that part of it, but you also understand the rationale that a lot of teams have with players, which is go earn the deal, right? And then you incentivize them by having this free agency lingering the following year. It didn't work for Klay Thompson. That backfired because he got on his head and he just got pissed off. But some players do thrive in those scenarios, and yeah. So I think Kuminga will be here long term after the season. But there's some big chats, by the way. I don't know if you want to get to those.
Yeah, let's hit some of the supers. Kev F says NBA should limit teams to 15 free throws a game per team and make all bonus fouls sideline out of bounds. Nobody wants to watch free throws all game. Terrible product. Yeah, not only that, it's not just how bad it is to watch the free throw shooting. It also creates a disjointed game. Basketball is about flow. If there's never any flow, if there's too many stops and starts, it penalizes the open floor player. So, and it rewards the out-of-shape player. And it also is a bad product. You know what I mean? Well, let's let these guys get up and down, up and down, up and down. You don't even find out who's in shape a lot of nights because there's so many stoppages.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If get up and down, stop calling. It's an athletic game. Let's see the athletes, swallow the whistle, and let's play some ball because, yeah, it creates a terrible disjointed product. There's nothing worse than we see it all the time at the end of games where the final 3 minutes take 12 minutes of real time to play. And that's kind of annoying. I guess my biggest argument with the end of games would be more, it seems like these teams have too many timeouts. Nobody ever runs out of timeouts. It's like there's always another timeout. And it's just that to me is kind of a weird thing. Like in the NFL, sometimes you do run out of timeouts. College hoop, you see teams run out of timeouts. But in the NBA, it's like there's always
well, you do sometimes. And funny enough, it always somehow ends up with Kerr running out of timeouts. But it happened. I hear what you're saying, though. It's been the long-term gripe of many NBA fans, which is
very disjointed at the end of the game.
Yeah, the end of a game can last 30 minutes. It's absurd. And this is where one
even if it's not exciting, that's the worst part. Even if it's exciting and there's drama, timeout, and that's one thing, but that's just the normal pace of a normal NBA game between two random teams. It will have a flow. When it gets inside of 2 minutes, it's like pulling.
But I think the reason why Kev F brought up the free throw thing tonight in particular is if you look at the stats between the Warriors and the Kings tonight, that discrepancy is big, man. The Warriors had 13 free throw attempts total. 6 of those 13 by Trayce Jackson-Davis, who missed half of them, and then Andrew Wiggins had 5. You look at the Kings, 32 free throw attempts. They had 19 more free throw attempts.
No. You're looking. That's not what I'm looking at.
What are you
looking at 48 free throw attempts for the Kings and 30 for Golden State. Am I not looking at the right box score?
You're looking at 3-point attempts. That's why. Might move over more, and then you'll get the free throws. The Warriors tonight were 9 of 13 from the free throw line. The Sacramento
Kings, you're right. They moved it over.
And this is side note. This is
30 of 32 and 9 of 13. Now I see it.
And the Kings made 30 of 32 free throws tonight, man. The Warriors, it's insane how many games they've blown this season because of the fact that they can't make their goddamn free throws. That was the difference in this game. At a bare minimum, that was a clear-cut difference. Warriors lost this game. What was the final score? 123-117. You lose this game by 6. You got outscored by 21 in free throws. That's insane.
Well, I mean, but they don't. Who do they have that goes to the bucket?
Wiggins,
you got to go to the bucket.
And when Kuminga plays, him too, and that's another issue of his. But that's a massive discrepancy. De'Aaron Fox had 10 free throw attempts. Sabonis had 8. DeMar DeRozan 6. I guess I didn't really notice like bad officiating being the result of that. In all honesty, I didn't realize that discrepancy until just now. Did you notice anything like out of the norm?
Well, they talked about it. They definitely. I mean, they talked about it on the broadcast. Definitely Fitz mentioned it at the end. The huge discrepancy.
Oh, you watched the local broadcast. I watched the ESPN broadcast. How was Fitz tonight?
I'm loyal to my Fitz and my Buki, man. What can I say? I don't want to watch those dirt bags from ESPN. Give me my Fitz and give me my Kalena.
Yeah, but the color commentator tonight was Bob Myers. That was one of the many reasons why I was on ESPN, because I listen to that. Every single word that comes out of that guy's mouth, I'm glued, man. I am paying. He's like a professor, and I'm the student, and I'm just absorbing.
That's so funny, because if I were talking to him today, I'd ask him nothing about basketball.
What would you ask him?
I'd ask him all about the Commanders and how he got Adam Peters. But you don't realize Bob Myers is literally 2 wins away from being hailed as a sports god. This guy bailed off the NBA, got run out of the Warriors. I don't care what anybody says. He got run out of the Warriors. He got fired by the Warriors.
That goes against that. Like, what's the narrative?
They say that he left on his own accord to stop that. Stop. I can't listen to that. This guy definitely got fired by the Warriors. The Warriors did not want him anymore. Okay, he was leaving. He had to leave. He goes to Washington as a football guy, finds Adam Peters through his UCLA connection. They go and sign like 24 free agents. They draft Jaden Daniels. They're going to win on
Bob
Sunday.
Myers is a winner.
And they're going to win on Super Bowl Sunday. The Commanders are 2 wins away, and Bob Myers was the architect of this thing. This is an iconic brand that was down because of Daniel Snyder and all his horrendous ownership. And in 1 year, he's going to put this thing together. They're going to win the Super Bowl. He's going to get a brand new stadium. They're going to build a brand new stadium. He's going to turn that franchise from, he's going to add $1 billion of worth to that franchise. And the Commanders are going to reestablish themselves as one of the best iconic brands in the NFL. I'm not saying they're going to have a dynasty run, but they're going to have a big run. They're going to be a major player for the 49ers to deal with in the going forward, and everybody going forward, because of Jaden Daniels and Adam Peters, and they made a lot of right decisions there. And Bob Myers,
man,
Bob Myers did that. Bob Myers put that whole thing in place.
People, I get into these debates a lot with folks about who's responsible for the dynasty. And to me, look, I mean, I know Jerry West deserves accolades. Stephen Curry is clearly number 1 on the list, but Bob Myers to me is right behind Steph. Like he to me was the brains of that operation, and his absence is clearly showing, man. And
first of all, I don't want to disagree with you, but tons about I don't want to disagree with you, but Steph didn't draft himself. So I can't say it's Steph. I would say it is Don Nelson.
Well, I asked Gary St. Jean. I brought up your point to Gary St. Jean, who I feel like would know because he's friends with Don Nelson. And he said he gave Larry Riley the credit. He was like, he understood your point.
Nelly would too. Yeah, I know Larry Riley well. I had Larry Riley on many times.
Yes.
As Steph was becoming Steph, as Steph was beginning to win, we had Larry Riley on the radio many times. And Larry is honest, and he didn't want to shortchange himself, of course. But when we got into the deep minutia on the process of that draft, Don Nelson, he told Nelly to go watch a bunch of guys, and Nelly told him, this is who I like. Now, at this point in history, Don Nelson is a major personnel star, and Larry Riley's just a dude who hung with him in Dallas. I sat next to Larry Riley. I sat next to Larry Riley at games in Media Row for years when Nelly was in Dallas. He's been one of Nelly's guys in Dallas. But my point is, Nelly is the genius.
That's fair.
Nelly found Sidney Moncrief. Nelly found Mitch Richmond. Nelly found Tim Hardaway. Nelly drafted Latrell Sprewell in the 20s. Nelly found how about this? In one day, one draft, Don Nelson acquired Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash in one draft. So
yeah, I'm with you.
Don Nelson is the genius. Don Nelson, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. We had Nelly on, and he told Gary that Steph and Dell didn't want to work out for the Warriors, and that he didn't care, and he was like, I don't care, we're taking him. And that right there was when the Warriors went from losers to winners. When Steph and Dell tried to bully the Warriors into passing on Steph because the Warriors were that freaking pathetic.
Well, and they had Monte Ellis, right? They had Monte Ellis.
But it wasn't about Monte Ellis. It had nothing to do with Monte Ellis. It had everything to do with how terrible the Warriors were forever. And they just didn't want any part of it. And Nelly just said, nope. And he told Larry Riley, this guy's badass. You have to have him. Larry Riley did it. Larry Riley deserves the credit because he had the job. But if Larry were sitting here, he would corroborate this story.
And again,
Nelly was the guy.
Who knows how much Bob Myers absorbed from Larry Riley being his assistant GM when they drafted Klay Thompson, and Stephen Curry again.
Who drafted Draymond?
Folks, and Draymond. Well, Bob Myers was the GM at that point, but
Bob Myers, that's right. Bob Myers deserves credit for drafting, Draymond and Harrison Barnes, Festus Ezeli in that one draft. That was a great draft. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I remember my kid was a tiny little kid. He was in the back seat, and they said the Warriors just drafted Draymond Green. I'm like, we got Draymond Green. I was
in the second round, and this was after they drafted Harrison Barnes and Festus Ezeli. I think was in the same draft too.
I was giving my kid a pound in the back seat, and he was like in his car seat. He was in his one. Might have been Kev. He was in his whoever it was. They were in a car seat, and they were like, and I was like Draymond Green.
And again,
they had no idea what I was talking about.
Just to remind people, Stephen Curry named his first child, his oldest daughter, Riley, after Larry Riley, who drafted him.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
Just some information there in case you're not familiar. Carson Taylor has a few super chats. You want to get to those real fast? Just
I always feel. Let's just roll down. We'll roll down here. We got this one from Chef A. Hey, Larry. Hey, Cyrus. Do you think Steve Kerr should be fired? And if so, who do you want to replace him and who's available? No, I don't think I would fire him. If he's ever the guy that I think would be the coach, would be a great coach, would be Draymond. I'd love to see Draymond coach at some point, but he's going to have to rein it way in to do it. But I think he'd be great.
Well, Draymond's going to be a broadcaster. I think that's pretty much settled. You're right. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think Draymond's going to be. He wants more than broadcasting. I will see. He might.
There's a lot of money in broadcasting side, but I mean, don't you think Draymond Green? Broadcasting is like not doing it. When you're like, ask John Lynch. He was a broadcaster, and now he's doing it. And it's
you might be right. I just
think
know
Draymond's going to do it.
I just know Draymond calls Charles Barkley his big brother for a reason. He loves what Chuck does. He wants to emulate those footsteps in terms of what Barkley's done post-career.
He's doing it.
Yeah, but in terms of Steve Kerr, I personally would. I feel like any other coach would be long gone. The amount of grace and leeway Kerr has earned for the Dynasty is now displaying itself because he still has his job. If you're going to replace him, which again I would, I'd go either Brent Barry, who's currently an assistant with the Phoenix Suns, or Mike Brown, who's just sitting out there, just waiting for a head coaching job. Mike Brown would probably be a more seamless fit, but Brent Barry would be someone who I'd go with as a long-term fixture. But
it's a good name. That's a good name. Brent Barry would be a really good coach too. How about John? What's John doing? I always thought John was a really smart basketball guy.
Good question, man. Rick brings him up. He's just golfing, as far as I know. That's
John. John was a genius basketball player. I thought. SGA Sports Talk channel. Chardol in the house. Hi, Larry and Cy. I love both of your channels.
Oh, thank you,
Chardol. That's not cool with me. I need you to love just my channel, and if you love another channel, then you can't love my channel.
1, Golden Days 2. I'd accept that.
If you love Cy, you can't love me. If you love me, you can't love Cy.
Either or.
This is not logical. This is YouTube.
This
Carson
is Warriors.
Taylor.
There's no logic with the Warriors these days.
Go get Joel Embiid. I've heard of that guy. He used to be on a team that used to win.
That's a good question. Do you think he's available, Larry? Like the 76ers are in a weird place. Like I don't know
I wouldn't want to trade for anybody on that team. That 76er team, as far as I'm concerned, it's like that town in the movie Outbreak where everybody was infected.
Yes.
And nobody wanted to touch those people. Except for Dustin Hoffman wanted to save them.
It's an old movie reference, dude.
Outbreak. Yeah. That's like Outbreak. Seriously, I don't want anybody on the Sixers just because we might touch what they've touched and then crumble the way they've crumbled. They're the most pathetic franchise this year. I think they're the most underachieving group of players I've seen in the league in years.
But years. I'm going to guess you have one exception, and that's Tyrese Maxey. Even the fan base loves that kid.
No, he's great. There's other guys on that team. I love Isaiah Joe. Or he's not on that team anymore, or is he still on that team? No,
but they got that Jared McCain, who's out for the year with injury. But I
love McCain. I told Bill Duffy this summer, I'm like, hey, Jared McCain's a player, and he's like, I don't know. Yeah, you know what? I do know. I'll tell you the guy that I wouldn't mind getting if I was Golden State. I wouldn't mind making a deal with Utah, taking John Collins.
He's on the table.
And trying to get them to throw in Filipowski. Because if you could get Filipowski and Collins, now you've got, you'd have to move Wiggins still, right?
Exactly. Well, no, not necessarily. You could actually.
Yeah, for Collins? Isn't Collins because a boatload?
He does. But the reason why I say you don't have to include Wiggins is because of the Schroeder contract. So if you included Schroeder, GP2, and Looney, you could use those three and then throw in a second-round pick to get John Collins. The question is, would Joe?
I wouldn't mind John Collins and Filipowski because Filipowski is another big man who can shoot the ball, makes good decisions, and Collins I think he's got a great body for the game. I think he's going to be good for another, 5 or 6 years, getting up and down, big body who can run, finish. I like Collins. I've always liked Collins. I know he's kind of had his moments up and down, but
look. When he was with Atlanta, he was awesome. There's a reason why he got the big contract, and then since he's been with Utah, though, it's just for whatever reason he's become irrelevant. But look,
we got this one. It says go get Joel Embiid. We got this one from Carson. Why are we talking about trading Steph? Try the Magic. That's funny. Carson Taylor says in the NBA you pay guys for the future. Yeah, exactly.
That's why the Durant for Kuminga trade is not sensible because
just don't move Kuminga. I mean, don't trade for old has-been guys. So those are the supers that we have. But yeah, somebody says Doug Christie's uppercutting the league right now.
He is, man. He is.
I don't know. I do think Golden State's going to be active. I was listening to an interview the other day where Marcus Thompson said that he really believes the Warriors are going to be active at the trade deadline.
I hope he's right, man.
I think they will be active.
I hope so. I mean, I don't. My question is, what are you waiting for? That's what I'm curious about. Like, are you waiting for teams to drop their price? Are you like? That's the part I don't get. if you're going to make a deal, what are you waiting for, man? Like every one of these losses are compounding a season that's flailing. Like salvage the year. Like that's the part I don't get.
So I don't know if I would agree with that. I mean, isn't it just? Are you telling me that that you don't think you can win out of the West, out of any seed? I think you probably can. I mean, if you have the right team, it's all about getting the right team than it is about. I realize you might drop a seed or two because you don't make this trade early, but I mean, first of all, if I were you, if the Warriors are really, as it seems, all in on trying to get Vucevic, I would say be prepared to come away with nothing, because the Bulls don't make trades, and there's a very good chance that if they don't get exactly what they want, that they just won't make the trade, and they'll just
which is frustrating. But you are correct. But again, Evan Sidgery of Forbes magazine, take that for what it's worth. He tweeted today that the Bulls want 1 first-round pick, and the Warriors are not offering that they're being steadfast about take our seconds. And one of those, they only have 2 second-round picks that they can trade, Larry, and one of the 2 is 2031. So, if you're the Bulls, I can understand being a little tepid about that and going, dude, I mean, just give us that or if you're the Warriors, why not do what the Suns did? Flip that 2031 first and get 3 first-rounders, and then give the Bulls one of those first-rounders and still have 2 more. What's wrong with that logic, Larry?
There's nothing wrong with it. I don't. Okay, so look at it this way. What's the best approach at the deadline, as you're trying to advance this franchise? There's the idea of get Vucevic because he's going to help you in the present. And that's
not true, by the way. The boogie popes there. But continue. Sorry to interrupt. Not entirely true, though. But go ahead.
What isn't true?
That Jerry West was responsible for Klay Thompson not being traded. Like that, Bob Myers addressed that in an interview just a couple months ago, and said that the whole team that was not a Jerry West coming in saying, don't do this. Nobody was advocating for it. They never even got to the point where they were discussing specific trade assets. The Timberwolves reached out. The Warriors took the call and said no. End of story. Like, this was not a Jerry West saving the day story, contrary to how some people think it went down.
My point is just that if you go get Vucevic, then the focus is going to be on what you get done in this next playoff round, and that's putting a lot of pressure. Now you're going to be in the go for it mode. So if people want to see you go for it, I guess.
Are they though?
Well, that would be. I mean, if you're trading, for a 34-year-old center,
I know
going for it.
I know, but Larry, you're giving up a 32-year-old GP2, a Kevon Looney who's for weeks at a time is out of the rotation, and that's it. Like, how is that? How are you giving up anything? How is that?
You're going for it, though. I mean, you're adding a piece to try to win right now.
Well, they're trying to win right now, regardless. I mean, that's what I don't understand. Are they not trying to win right now? I mean.
Well, I just don't think that should be the focus. I think because they're not winning now. I mean, this Warrior team is not winning now. I would try to make the kind of move that sets you up for not just this year, but for next year, so that you can, because maybe you can make. I mean, I would try to pick off. I just try to win get a great asset that's down, that's values down. I mean, they kind of did that with Bogut. And we've seen this done with other players around the league where you get a really good player. And the Warriors did that with Baron Davis. I mean, they got Baron Davis for Speedy Claxton and Dale Davis.
That was one of the greatest moves ever. Yeah.
It was a great deal. Why? Because Baron Davis was a star, but the bloom was off the rose. And do the same thing. Like right now, you look around the league and there's 3 or 4 players. Zion's one of them.
Yeah.
And he's the guy. So go make a deal there, and don't worry if he's in perfect shape or ready to help you or this or that. Don't worry about making sure it's perfect. Just add a piece that's not 34. Add a piece that's 24 that you think you're getting a steal on. And I would see if I could make that move. There's probably a couple guys like that, to be honest, around the league where they're, a little bit better players than or they're available. Either they don't get along well, or they have some kind of issue. I know Randall's going to be probably moved again. Do you like Randall?
I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it. But again, you got to look at. I'm trying to be realistic in all this. Like Randall might be a tradable asset, but Minnesota would want something real back for that, right? Chicago doesn't want something real back. Utah, Portland, Toronto. I know I'm forgetting at least one or two other teams that are with the Wizards. They don't want jack shit back. They just want something like a little token so that they're giving up this piece they don't give a shit about and feel good about it, right? This is a rarity in NBA seasons to have this scenario where 5 or 6 teams are so focused on next year's draft that they're willing to give up their current assets for practically nothing. And the Warriors are in a spot where their defense is okay, their offense is utter shit, and they're being picky about who to trade for. What world are we living in here, man? I don't get any of this, Larry. I understand the rationale of not giving.
This is Joe. I mean, this is what he's.
Well, I think this is Kerr.
He's a billionaire.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, Kerr's got strong opinions, I'm sure.
Yeah, big time.
But it's from what I've heard, it's Joe, where Joe's like nothing gets done without me, and
here's the thing:
it's got to be everything they want it to be.
I don't disagree with that, but here's where I point the finger much more at Kerr. Dennis Schroeder is not a Joe Lacob player. That's a Steve Kerr player. Andrew Wiggins being untradeable. That's a Steve Kerr decision. That's not a Joe Lacob decision. GP2 and Looney still not being traded. That's a Steve Kerr decision. I don't think Joe Lacob has this emotional attachment to these guys. But I think if he has a weakness, in addition to what you're saying, which is that he's suddenly being complacent here and being an egomaniacal control freak, which I don't disagree with. He's the owner. You know, it's the caveat of NBA ownerships. They're all kind of crazy. But Steve Kerr, he acquiesces to Kerr. I think those two have, with the 4 championships they won together, Kerr has gone to a point in Joe Lacob's life where whatever he wants, Joe just says yes. And that's a problem, man, because all of this is a Steve Kerr production, dude. I don't disagree with the Joe Lacob part of it in terms of him being controlling, him pushing Myers out, even though on the face of it, that didn't happen. But I just can't pretend that Steve Kerr is not causing a shitload of these issues. Even tonight, man, again, the Warriors go into the half with a 17-point lead. The biggest reason for that 17-point lead is Guy Santos. And what do you do in the third quarter? Sit there and do nothing and wait for the lead to evaporate and then bring Guy Santos in. How is that rational? How is that logical? Like, that's why I keep looking at Steve Kerr as being the primary issue. But I don't disagree with you.
I don't love a lot of Kerr's rotations, but I mean, it's the regular season rotations on a roster full of, flawed players that don't necessarily always fit together. He's kind of juggling the whole thing. He's had some injuries. He's got some age. He's got some egos. I mean, he's a little bit more free this year than he's been in the past, but I think also, he doesn't really know exactly what he's got, who's going to deliver for him. And as this thing goes on, I mean, these players age before our eyes and then players emerge before our eyes. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that Quentin Post has a lot of talent. I mean, he's that guy can shoot the ball. I mean, there's no question and he's pretty active. So, I mean, in 15 minutes tonight, he had 6 rebounds. He had an assist. He had a block. He had 5 points, -10 on the plus minus. But, I thought Post did some nice things. He hit that 1-3 that was really looked nice. I mean, he's active. He's active, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Bill Laimbeer type. He's got a really nice looking form on his perimeter shot, and he's got good arc on it. He's got good arc on it too.
You're right. But look at the starting lineup tonight. Who in the right mind starts Andrew Wiggins as your power forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's
do you justify that? Like, how do you defend that, man? All this small ball crap, the fact that the Warriors are easily the smallest team in the NBA, that is not a Joe Lacob production, man. Like Kai in the chat is saying that Steve Kerr doesn't have control over these things. Wrong. His fingerprints are all over every personnel decision. He was directly responsible for Anthony Edwards not being a Golden State Warrior. And this is why I don't point the finger at Joe Lacob in terms of the 2 timeline thing. not panning out the way he hoped, even though they did win a fourth championship in the middle of that. So I don't know if you could really say it didn't work, but ultimately, I mean, you look at this the size of this team. No one in their right mind will pretend that speed is more important than size in the NBA, except for Steve Kerr. And again, I just watched this game
Looney tonight. How come Looney only played 9 minutes?
Because he got sick. He came down with an illness and missed the second half. And he was getting owned by Domantas Sabonis tonight, man. Like him actually getting ill might have been a blessing in disguise because it resulted in more minutes for Trayce Jackson-Davis, who finished this game with 11 points, 8 rebounds, 4 of 6 from the field. And that's why I think we saw more Quentin Post, who played 14 minutes, 37 seconds, is because Looney fell down with an illness. There's something going around the Warriors.
Well, I mean, I would trade Looney just to create more minutes for Trayce Jackson-Davis and Post.
That too.
Just move Looney just to create those minutes because those guys need to play.
Yeah.
Those guys need to play more. But they also need to shake the deck a little bit because they're not, based on what I've seen, play Post, play Trayce Jackson-Davis. Obviously you're probably not going to move Steph because Joe doesn't want to move Steph, but everybody else should be totally open to be moved.
Agreed.
Looney, Wiggins, Buddy, Peyton, Waters, Santos, Schroeder, Moody.
Waters is another one, dude. Like
everybody. There's very few guys. Literally, I'm keeping Curry and I'm keeping Trayce Jackson-Davis and I'm keeping Post, and I'm probably keeping Draymond. Other than that, let's play. Let's make a deal.
I wholeheartedly agree, dude. Lindy Waters, by the way, again, he was signed to be a 3-point specialist. Was 50% shooting tonight. He only had 2 3-point attempts, but those were his only points in 14 minutes, dude. Like, this team needs scoring. And then Dennis Schroeder, that trade has not panned out. Entering tonight, Dennis Schroeder, Larry, I don't know if you saw this or heard of this. I believe he's a minus 145 in net rating. He's shooting 28.4% from deep. And tonight, Dennis Schroeder, 20 minutes and change, 7 points, 5 turnovers in this game. And I remember a few of those vividly, man. No, you're right. This team needs a shakeup in the worst way. And I'm very skeptical about them actually doing something. This is why, I love hearing you say that you're confident they're going to make a trade. I love hearing that. Please, I'm praying to whoever is listening, please make a trade. This team needs a shakeup in the worst possible way, man. I'm with you there.
Some NBA headlines before we get out of here.
Yeah.
We're coming towards the end. Heat have suspended Jimmy Butler again. He missed a flight. He's suspended once again. He wants out, but I got to think every one of these suspensions makes his value go down. I know you got to trade contracts, but what an ugly situation that's becoming. And the idea that you'd ever move Kuminga for Butler, it's like, I would be interested in Butler if I could get Butler at a total reduced rate, but I don't even know that the Warriors could make that deal.
How psychotic is it, Larry, that the Miami Heat are asking for Kuminga in a Jimmy Butler trade? Like, live in reality. Like, I love Pat Riley. I respect him as one of the greatest coaches ever. He's a fantastic GM, whatever his role is. But come on, man. Like, Kuminga. Like, dude, you're not getting shit for Jimmy Butler.
Get real. SGA tonight went for 54 against the Jazz.
Career high.
Unbelievable.
Career high.
The Mavericks.
He's MVP, right? If you had a vote, and I think, side note, it's a travesty that neither of us have a vote. That's a whole other argument and show we could have in terms of who's actually getting the votes for NBA awards. With that said, SGA, is he your favorite for MVP?
Who are my other options?
Well, there's Jokic is having another big year. Jason Tatum is having a big year. Donovan Mitchell of the Cavaliers.
Well, I like Mitchell. I'd probably go SGA. OKC's great too.
They are.
Derek Lively, the Maverick center. They lose him for a couple months. He fractured an ankle. I don't know if you saw that.
That's rough. That's rough.
Vanderbilt's coming back this weekend for the Lakers. He'll debut. And Bucks Pelicans postponed due to historic winter storms. My daughter lives in Atlanta, and she's going to school there. I'm like, oh, well, does it snow there? And she's like, nah, it doesn't really snow.
This year.
17 degrees in Atlanta, snow on the ground. They're having a permafrost there in the South.
And real quick, Larry, just to backtrack for a second, I wanted to bring up, you mentioned that Mavericks game and Derek Lively being injured. The Mavericks are an example of why a midseason trade does work. Last year, they traded for P.J. Washington. They traded for Daniel Gafford, paid off. The Pacers trade for Pascal Siakam, paid off. There's some people out there saying that midseason trades don't help teams. Bullshit. That's not true. And the Jared Vanderbilt news, he's making his debut Saturday against the Golden State Warriors. Yay!
Yeah, exactly. What did you think of Green expounding on his Poole,
you want to play that?
His latest Poole apology. I can play it right here. Hold on.
Okay, if you have it, yeah, please. No, this is something we should definitely play because this is Draymond at his most vulnerable.
Here we go. This is what I got. Let me see. No.
And like I said, I have it here queued up just in case you need my help.
I can play this.
I gotcha. Don't play that. I wouldn't play that one because you might have ads and here. Okay. I have it queued up. Do you mind if I share my screen?
No, go ahead.
Here, and we don't have to play the whole thing. It's about 3 minutes and change. So if it's too long, let me know. I'll cut out of it. But this is from the Draymond Green show, and Baron Davis queued it up by bringing up Draymond Green's a tweet where he apologized after Jordan Poole said that he misses most of the Warriors players, or he loves most of the Warriors players, not all of them. I can't remember exactly how that went, but so that was brought up today, and Draymond Green went full emo. Here's Draymond.
Oh, I gotta add.
Okay. Jordan Poole said, "I love those guys over there. I love most of those guys over there." And then you respond with a tweet that says,
"I really am sorry.
I really am sorry." Why did you respond to that?
I responded because, like, it's been 3 years. Like, let's move on.
Where's the love?
We moved on. Like, we're supposed to move on, man. I really am sorry. Right. Like, it was that statement was kind of like, it was kind of like it was looking for some sympathy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of keep wanting to make me out to be the bad guy. Move on, bro. Like, it is what it is. I'm sorry. Like, I shouldn't have punched him. But it happened. Like, let's move on, man. I even apologized to his parents because I got his dad popped off one time on the internet. And I went back at him because it was just like, bro, why are you popping off? And I actually didn't like myself for it because I wasn't even on that. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I kind of let him get me off my square a little bit. Because I've said what I said about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of go
back. It's over, bro.
Yeah, bro.
It's over.
I be kind of going back and forth with this on like, I'll be kind of in between on certain days like, yo, I know I was wrong, but you can't call a man a B word and push him and not get hit either. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I kind of
word.
You know what I'm saying? I kind of sit in both of those spaces sometimes. And like the reality is, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle, right? Like, I shouldn't have knocked him out like that. If anything, I should have hemmed him up. Kind of was just a natural reaction. So the reality is, like, I probably should have hemmed him up or something like that.
Yeah.
And so the answer probably in the middle.
Fact.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, after the fact. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do after the fact, right? Facts. You can think about and say what you did wrong, but in that moment, like, man, we done seen plenty of teammates square off and, like, fight. So you done seen fights in the league. It's a whole YouTube highlight of just people, getting down and thumping, and it happens.
It does.
It happens. It happens in practice when you're competitive. You have that competitive spirit. But at this point, I really am sorry is another public apology to just move on. Like, okay, I get it. I get how Jordan Poole feel. Okay, he gonna love some of the dudes and he not.
That's fine.
Right. But that's fine too, but it's over. It's over.
No, I ain't gotta announce
it's
it.
Over.
Like, I think the whole
you
world
don't want
knows.
to tie to your legacy. Like, it's not a legacy thing. This is not a part of like the legacy, you know? This is more so like some sidecar shit that's just a part of like
that part.
The brand.
You know what I'm saying? It's just a part of the brand. But like I think for him though, like you kind of bringing that back up on yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like when you do that, you just bring back that moment up on yourself. You know, like
right.
You just kind of got to move on and just keep it pushing, man. So,
yeah, you got to let it go. At some point, he got to let it go so he can get back to being who he is.
That part.
You know, yeah.
So,
all right, that's enough right there. I mean, how high is Baron Davis?
I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, thanks for saying that.
My God,
took the words out of my mouth.
You know, I mean, that guy stopped by the club on the.
Man, like,
man, that's not the way he talks.
Let it go.
It's like,
bro.
let it go.
It's part of like the legacy.
It's just like, dude,
like, bro, just let it go.
I mean, Draymond was sober, but Baron was just high as a kite.
He's retired. He doesn't care.
He's just like so suited. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, dude,
what is that? That was the Baron pod. I mean, here's the hilarious thing about that is Baron's take there was my take on 95.7. Whenever we talked about this, was like, hey man, this happens. And people were like, oh, that's a ridiculous take. That's,
how dare you, Larry? How dare you?
You're such an advocate for violence, and it's just crude, and it's rude, and it's awful, and you're despicable human being.
You're tier 2, Larry. You're not tier 2.
For you to say that this happens.
How dare you? You're violent. God,
so wrapped up in all this Debbie do-gooder. It's like, God, we get it. Violence isn't the answer. All right.
What did you think about emo Draymond, though, man? I've never seen him like that. That was new for me.
Well, I mean, it's like it's like, why don't you acknowledge the truth, which is if he were a bigger, badder dude, then you would actually be pretty cool. But the fact is, you're the bigger, badder dude, so you kind of bullied him, It's like, I mean, if we're talking about how he dropped Shaq, then yeah, then it's like, okay, I want to hear Draymond talk about that. But when he dropped a 6'4" guy, no, Draymond's 6'8", and he's, the same way we say Draymond's 6'8", but he plays like a 7-footer because he's got such long arms. Well, guess what? He also fights like a much bigger guy because he's got huge reach. He's got crazy reach.
Larry, I've shared this story before.
He just dropped him, and it never bothered me because guess what? That was between them.
Yeah.
And Jordan Poole is not a 6th grader that got into practice. He's on the team, and he's a man. And he challenged another man, and he got dropped. And you know what? It happens all the time. They're right about that. And that's what I was saying on 95.7. It was like, hey, man, this shit happens all the time.
It happened to
It happens on the bus. It happens on the plane. It happens on the practice field. It happens in the locker room. I worked on a Canadian Football League team where I witnessed at least 7 or 8 brawls between players over the course of the year. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And it's, here's the bottom line, too. The coaching staff doesn't really care because the alternative is nobody cares. And there's a lot of teams where nobody really cares enough to fight, but nobody really cares enough to fight the opponent. You want guys who care that much. You want guys like Draymond Green who are that passionate about their position and are that, willing to throw hands at the drop of a hat. You need some of that raw toughness. This ain't freaking tiddlywinks. They don't give away the Larry O'Brien trophy to just, guys who smile nice. I mean, it's blood, sweat, and tears, and you gotta claw and fight and everything. It's a battle, man. And you gotta have some tough dudes. And this is basketball. I mean, think about football. You really need to have some tough dudes. So
or hockey, where it's legal to fight,
where they're fighting all the time. But it's like I get it. The only thing I don't like is that the real tough guys don't talk about it; they just do it.
That's fair.
And
That's fair.
I don't like how there's so many of these NBA podcasts are about talking about all these fisticuffs. Stop talking about it. Seriously. In the NHL, these guys throw hands nightly, and it's way more violent, and they never talk about it.
That's true.
And one fight in the NBA practice, and it's like we're talking about it for years.
Well, and
I think stop talking. If you're really a tough guy, you don't talk about it. And that's right. Come on, enough. Right. It was 3 years ago.
Mike Weisberg, I thought, nailed it in the chat. And I think personally, just piggybacking off what you said, if it didn't get leaked, it would not have been a story. Plain and simple. This would have because it does happen regularly. Michael Jordan, the story is public. He socked Steve Kerr and back they hit each other. It happens. There is so much testosterone, so much adrenaline pumping that it does spill over sometimes. It was interesting. I didn't know until hearing that Jordan
a lot of money and a lot of pressure.
That too, especially Jordan Poole was playing for that extension. I mean, this video.
But it happens. I'm telling you, man. I've seen coaches because of money and pressure, and blame, in the middle of a film. TVs are flying, shit's flying, dip cups are flying, guys are throwing hands. You said that was on the safety. That was on the linebacker. What? No, that was on the safety. No, that was on the linebacker. That was on the safety. That was, here we go. So, you know what? It's just a lot of pressure in pro sports, man. I don't think people realize when you inject super big money, then the same way it's illogical what these guys make. And I say these guys, I'm talking about pro athletes. It's illogical what these guys make, but it's also then it's almost like the people who run pro sports, because of the absurdity of what these guys take home. There's no line. It's like you're all in. You know what I mean? This comes before everything. The team
like Robert Phoenix
comes first, second, and third.
And Robert Phoenix in the chat wrote that according to Bob Myers, Draymond was having a bad day, and I've talked to you about this. I think I've said this once before publicly, and I'll say it again. This is a breaking news item because I'm the only person who's reporting this, and again, it's not a big deal, but to add context and just to piggyback off what Robert Phoenix wrote, Draymond learned within 24 hours of that incident that he lost custody of his child. In case you haven't noticed, Draymond Green used to have little Dre sitting by him on the podium at practices, at games. And if you also haven't noticed, you don't see that anymore. It's because he lost custody, and he learned that right before this incident. Jordan Poole calls him the B word. Again, I'm not justifying the violence. But I am adding context here because Draymond was having a horrible day. With that said, I'm not defending him punching someone else, but it's worth noting that, we're all human. And when you get news like that, you're not going to be in good mood. Latrell Sprewell choked out a Warriors coach once. I still think that's way worse than this, but it happens, man. It happens.
Whatever. I mean, it's, whatever. I mean, everybody's got a life. Everybody's got a story. Some people, I'm sure there are people that showed more, control. I'm sure there are people that show less. So I mean, it's just where he sits on the spectrum of how he reacted there. I don't know, but I hear what you're saying. A lot of people go through.
I'm not defending it. I'm not justifying.
No, I know, but I mean, it's just like it's just it can't be introduced as an excuse in any way.
Exactly.
That's the first thought from anybody's gonna be like, oh, it's an excuse. It's not. It can't be an excuse because you just can't have that as an excuse. It's terrible, but it also can't be an excuse. Carson Taylor says, in the NBA, you pay guys for the future. We also have this one down here. Would you trade 3 firsts and get an all-star type guy?
Yes. Depends on who, but
depends on who and what age they are. Not LeBron.
Well, Larry, here's
not somebody who's 39.
And Larry,
you got to look at the years.
Your idea about trading for Zion, I just want to add to that for 24. A second because if you make that deal, and it would involve Andrew Wiggins, right? Let's say for the sake of argument,
I don't know what it would involve because he makes a lot of money, but they're also eager to get rid of him, and it sounds like they're not. I would be shocked if they got like top tier value for Zion at this point.
The math, same. I mean, no one's going to give up important assets for him at this point. And in terms of the math, you'd almost have to include Wiggins. My point here is, let's say you do that trade. Let's say you trade Wiggins, GP2 Looney, and you throw in some sort of draft capital that's way down the road. So we're all old by the time that actually comes into fruition, and it doesn't work out. Let's say Zion comes here. He's immediately hitting in and out, getting 3x3s, 5 at a time. And, he's going down to on Broadway Street in San Francisco. He becomes a regular at the strip clubs, and he's fat. He lacks focus. It's a bust. It's a bad move. You can move on after the season. The contract is not guaranteed. You'd also be moving on from Andrew Wiggins' contract. You can sign Miles Turner as an unrestricted free agent this summer. You can, and that's just one name. My point is, if you move on from that Wiggins deal, you have flexibility this offseason to sign other players, man. They'd be in a great spot. I'm supporting your case is all I'm trying to say. Like, it would not be the worst move in the world to take a swing. If you miss, you have this offseason.
I mean, this is the way I look at it. If you trade for Vucevic, it's all about what you do in the playoffs. If you trade for Zion, it's not necessarily what you do in the playoffs. It's what you do over the next, let's say, 2-3 years. And that's all I'm saying. I would like to take a little bit of the focus off of this team since they don't seem like they're up to it, and try to see if I could take a step back, get an incredible asset, get that asset in better shape, in a better frame of mind, and see if I could come back and win one more title. It's going to take a Zion Williamson type player coming in and really getting his game to a higher level than it's at, and then, and only then, will the Warriors have a shot to win a title with Steph, in my opinion. To me, that's the realistic approach. Go get, and if you could make 2 deals like this, make 2 deals. If you could get a couple of young assets, and they don't all have to be as big as Zion Williamson as far as money and upside. It could be, there's a number of players around the league. I mean, I could give you any number of players around the league that I think are kind of upside plays, let's just say. You mentioned Jalen Duren before. I think he's an upside play.
Well, here's another name, Larry, before we go.
I think Josh Giddey's an upside play.
Well, here's another name I'll throw at you. Giddey's a weird one.
Filipowski is an upside play.
Cam Johnson of the Brooklyn Nets. The latest report is that Brooklyn wants 2 firsts. What if, again, the Suns just doing that move yesterday, I love them doing that because it showed the Warriors in the world that you can apply ingenuity to your draft picks and to your moves. What if the Warriors flip that 2031 first rounder and do what the Suns did? Flip that for 3 picks that are worse. You trade 2 of those picks to Brooklyn. Now you have Cam Johnson on your team, and you're not giving up a damn thing in the process. You're giving up expiring deals, GP2, Kevon Looney. You give them these first-round picks that you'd really that doesn't matter because we're talking 2031 way down the road.
I like Cam Johnson. Also, Cam Johnson's not old. Cam Johnson's more on the young side. Yeah,
he's 28. He's in his
got
prime.
A good 5 years left.
Just do something, Warriors. Just do something. Joe, please do something. This is excruciating, man.
It's a rough watch.
It is, dude. It is. You're right. It's not even fun to watch.
Well, I mean, beyond not fun, it feels like work.
That's brutal, but it's true. It's so true.
It does.
It's so true. This feels like a job what I've been doing lately, man. You're right.
I've heard a few people who don't realize that they're like, we're listening that closely, say, yeah, I had to watch the Warrior game, and then I had to watch the Warrior game. There's a lot of had to watch I feel that way. Fun, man. I feel that way. I mean, I literally feel that way when I'm watching some of these games. I'm like, oh man, I gotta watch this because they. I probably have to talk about it, and I don't want to look like a total freaking idiot. You know what I mean? It's just.
Larry,
now I've got the same energy in my voice right now as Baron Davis had. You know,
these Warriors, man.
I mean, Larry, what was the line that Baron Davis kept saying there over and over again?
No, what was the word? No.
What was the line that Baron Davis kept saying over and over again?
Let it go, man.
Let it go.
Just let it go, man.
Dude, yeah, I mean, come on. Move on. Let it go.
The brand, bro.
Your brand. Anytime somebody talks about your brand, they should just be beaten. Seriously. Anybody who starts talking about their brand, you should just be like, dude, you're going to get cold cocked. Yeah, well, here's my brand is that I screw you and your brand, Krueger. I don't know if I like my brand brushing with your brand.
Larry, let it go, man.
Let it go, man.
Let it go, man.
Let it go.
The brand.
All right, we're gonna let it go. I told Kev that I would not go more than an hour and a half, and it's an hour 40. So I'm gonna let it go. I gotta let it go.
Always a pleasure, brother. Always.
Gotta take the car to the shop tomorrow. Car's not running well. Gonna have to take the car to the shop. So gotta get up early. All right, Si, good stuff. Thanks to you. You want to thank your sponsors? Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to
Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code GSW, please. I post all these links in the YouTube description as well, in the podcast description. Underdog Fantasy. Thank you, Dr. Rosanelli. Go to rosanelli.com. For all your hair and facial care treatments, and BetOnline. Thank you, brother.
By the way, Cy took the cream from Rosanelli this afternoon, rubbed it on his chin. Look at that. That is all since 3:00. You think Rosanelli works? 3:00. Nothing. This guy was clean shaven at 3. He rubbed some cream on there. Look at that. Look at that. That is just
let it go, man.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for.